what is going on in Jerusalem. As I understand it, there's trouble because Fatah and Hamas are meant to be going to the polls. Like the Palestinian Authority is meant to be electing their next leadership for the next election. And when these Fatah and Hamas, and when they're meant to go to the polls, invariably they're going to be judged on their merits, which neither party really has in the Palestinian Authority. Neither is running anything extremely well. I mean, Hamas is not in power. Fatah is, with old Muhammad Abbas. But as I understand it, all of those things that we saw on the Temple Mount were pre-planned. It's not some random thing that's just happened. And what is interesting is to watch those Israeli that sky dome of theirs, where if you fire rockets into Israel, they have these systems that immediately obliterate the rockets, and it looks like a fire display, a fireworks display. I'm not making light of it because there are people in shelters at the moment with all of these rockets coming over, but it's an incredible thing to watch. Hey.
Gareth, I'm so confused, man. I never know how did this all start? They wanted to evict Palestinians from somewhere in East Jerusalem, right?
No, so
I'm so confused because these Palestinians have been living there all this time. It's now 2021. Why do the Israelis want to do it now?
Okay, let me explain from the little bit that I know, but this I know to be true. All right, first thing, that land was originally owned by Jews in 1948. Okay, when Jordan attacked, they took over that part of Jerusalem. They chased the Jews out, as is usual for that part of the world. When Israel takes over a place, it doesn't chase out the Palestinians. I mean, I think it's 2/5 of the population of Israel is Palestinian or Muslim, right? That's not the case in parts of Palestine that are occupied by Palestinians. It's Judenrein, as the Germans used to say. It's clear of Jews. So that happened, and the Jewish families that owned those houses and those places in that east part of Jerusalem you're talking about, they still have the title deeds to those. And it was settled in one of the peace negotiations that land must be returned to those Jewish families that occupied it before 1948. Anyway, that was not done, and the Palestinian families that have been living there for 70 years without paying rent have now been told you've got to get out. Like if you don't pay rent, if you're in an apartment and you don't pay your rent, you get told by the landlord you got to get out. They don't own that property.
Was there some high court decision to say all of this?
Yes. This is by the book. So what's happened is that this has given a pretext to, and that's why I brought up Fatah and Hamas, because it's given a pretext to them to make it look like the Jews are the bad guys here again. The Israelis are the bad people, because they don't want to go to the polls. Because if they go to the polls now, there's going to be all kinds of shit. You see, there's competition between, it sounds really stupid, but this is a distillation of the problem. There's competition between Hamas, who are far more of a terrorist organization. I mean, it's not controversial for me to say that because they are on a list of terror organizations based on the perspective of almost every country in the world, with the exception of places like South Africa. And Hamas is widely regarded as being, a terrorist organization. There's no other way to put it. Fatah, who've been running the West Bank and Gaza for the longest time now, are not a terrorist organization. But what happens when they get into competition with Hamas is they're forced to ramp up their anti-Israeli rhetoric and all of that stuff. And ultimately what this is a distraction. This is to distract people again from the fact that these two stupid parties in Palestine, neither of them can run the place. And then, of course, it's bad old Israel's fault. Israel's an oppressor, and Israel's the apartheid regime of the Middle East and all of this stuff.
Okay, so now where's the connection then? I don't understand the Israeli army attacking or going into the Al-Aqsa Mosque with stun grenades and rubber bullets. I don't understand. Where's the connection? Why did that happen?
Well, this is where they were going to stage their kind of not the Israelis. But the Palestinians are going to stage their uprising, their rebellion against this injustice on the east of Jerusalem. But it's all pre-planned, and it's they press a button, and then the violence starts, and it's all a distraction, as I've said to you, to try and distract. Listen, Mahmoud Abbas has been in charge of Fatah, always been the head man of Fatah for such a long time now that I think the guy before him was Yasser Arafat. That's how long he's been there. In any other country, they'd be saying
1993, I think.
Yeah, they'd be saying, "Hey, hang on, isn't it a time for a change in leadership?" But of course, this is not how things work in the Palestinian Authority. So, if you really think Israel's the bad guy here, you're believing a whole lot of lies. If you ask me, and I'm straight up. I'm not going to deny that I'm partisan in this. I've been a Zionist and a supporter of the state of Israel for the longest time. I'm not going to make any apologies for it. If you think that you have a better narrative to tell, then you can read all the mainstream media publications in the world that take the side of the Palestinians. As I understand it, that is as much as I know. I can't tell you any more.
The narrative that I'm getting from, like, say, the Media Review Network, which is that Palestinian lobby group in South Africa, their version is that the Israeli army are just attacking innocent worshippers at the Al-Aqsa Mosque. That's the story. That's the story I read. There was nothing in the Al-Aqsa Mosque about any uprising. I just read the story that the army just started attacking people. That's the version I read.
It's always the version.
The thing is, who do you believe?
I told you who I believe. I don't believe that crap version you just gave me.
Well, it's not my version. I just,
that is not the version I believe. So,
yeah. And then the other version, again, so the flip side of the coin is that the story that I'm reading is that Palestinians have been evicted from their houses in East Jerusalem, and the version that you gave, that originally there were Jews before 1948, and you had not a word about that.
Yeah, of course not.
Honestly, Gareth, I got to be honest, I don't know who to believe.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know who to believe. It's the worst. It's the weirdest. It is the weirdest. It is the weirdest, strangest part of the world. And from a media news point of view, it is such a conundrum of. It's like an enigma. It's completely bizarre.
All I can say to you is, if you don't know more than you and I have spoken of here, and then rather don't get involved.